so much for the reminder. So, so again, we're here on a Friday afternoon. I know that it's hard on a Friday to be in a Zoom meeting, and climate change work is one of those pieces of work that's never ending. It can be exhausting, and yet here we are. And so I applaud you guys for that, everybody here. And I think it's also meaningful for us to kind of think for a minute of a place that's really meaningful to us. And I put up this beautiful picture of our planet, which is our only planet. It's our plan A and our plan B and our plan C. And so we got to make this planet work. And so I'd like to ask for you for a minute to, look at that planet and think of a place that's really meaningful to you and a place that's worth being in a Zoom meeting on a Friday for, that's worth doing all the work that um, we're going to need to do together. Can I get the next slide, Archery? There we go. And so some of you were kind enough to send pictures of some of your meaningful places. But I'd like to ask that you also type into chat. This is our way of doing introductions today. The name of the place that is meaningful to you. And if you send a photo, you can put a name of that place or any place, even if you didn't send a photo. And we'll show a few more photos at the end. And which campus you're affiliated with, just so we can get an idea of where people are coming from and what some of your special places might be. And you'll notice in these pictures that people provided that some of them had no people in them. Some of them have a couple of dear people in them. And some of them have whole cities full of people in them. And so your special place can be any kind of place. So I'll invite you to write something into chat here. Apuna Beach. Big Chico Creek, nice. Bandon, yeah. Oh man. When I see stuff like this, I start getting like travel envy. I get that wanderlust, like, oh, I gotta go, I gotta go. Oh, how wonderful. Oh, Mammoth in Jamaica, yeah. Ooh, Appalachia. That's actually where I am right now, the truth be told. Fabulous. This is great. Thank you all. I really appreciate that. These are the places we're fighting for and the people in those places. And so let's get going on the next slide then, and I'll unpack our agenda a little bit. That was backwards, so go forwards. Here we go. So today we're going to do some quick introductions of the facilitators, give you a little bit of background about how we got here today and why we're doing this. And then we're going to give you an overview of the SF State Certificate in Climate Change Causes, Impacts, and Solutions, just so that you have some basis for thinking about what could happen on your campus to get those creative juices flowing. And then we're going to spend some time workshopping the next steps for if you don't have a certificate, for creating one. And if you do have one, for maybe connecting better with the one you already have. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the possibility of how we can collaborate more in a CSU-wide way. Do we want a CSU-wide certificate? Would that be beneficial or more harmful? And then maybe following up some next steps and then a wrap up at the end. Next slide, please. Okay, so introductions. I'm Kai Burris. I use she, they pronouns. I am a professor of biology and co-director of Climate HQ. Today we have with us co-facilitating with me, Archery Samantha, who is an associate professor of environmental studies, co-director of Climate HQ, and she is graciously running the slides today. And that's why you hear me say Archery. And we also have Autumn Thorey, who's associate professor and interim co-director of the new School of the Environment at San Francisco State, as well as co-director of Climate HQ. And lastly, even though there won't be co-facilitating in the main room today, they will be in your breakout rooms. We've got the Climate HQ team. And if you look for folks with the same virtual background as we have, then you'll know that they're on the SFSU Climate HQ team. And they are a wonderful group of colleagues who have been showing up for Friday virtual meetings every week for nearly 3 years now. So go team. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Autumn.
Me, or a three.
Archery, sorry.
Fine. Okay. So some background before we head into the weeds of what our certificate is about. Um, so SFSU Climate HQ, which is sort of the umbrella that sort of like that we all are a part of this background that we have here. It's the core that the certificate is associated with, and all of our various climate initiatives are associated with. It was launched in 2021 with the goal of increasing diverse climate change leadership. So our initiatives are directed at, creating climate change leadership, but also, paying keen attention to who is part of that leadership. Our efforts are grounded in climate justice. It's a core value in all of our initiatives, in the certificate, within the work of Climate HQ, everything. We convened our first CSU-wide climate change group last year to discuss ways in which we can synergize and amplify climate change efforts across the CSUs. And in that meeting, we, presented our work, and we gathered some data. And the group told us to prioritize working on curricular and research collaboration. That is something that we heard from you all. So our first step in the curricular route was for us, SFSU, to host this webinar this semester. And we are hoping that another campus will step up to host another webinar, maybe on curriculum, maybe on research collaborations in the upcoming semesters, starting in the spring. So please help us increase our outreach by adding your name to the list and circulating this work in your campus. And if somebody can put this link in the chat, that will be wonderful. Yeah, thanks, Kai. Thanks, Adam. Okay. A couple of quick announcements. So there are some CSU-wide efforts that we would want to elevate and talk about in this meeting. The first one is a very exciting Climate Solutions Now conference being hosted by Cal Poly SLO, and it's coming up really soon. It's October 25th to 27th. It's being led by Erin Pierce at Cal Poly SLO, and they have 68 talks. Like, they have a fantastic array of speakers. It's free for students to attend. You can get a code. And we are also presenting our work, but there is our colleagues from other CSUs, activists, professionals in the field, all are presenting. So this is a fantastic conference. Attend if you can and share with your students. And we have a CSU-wide faculty learning community also existing, and Mark Stimmen at Chico State University, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing the name correctly. They are leading this effort. So that's another effort to look out for at a sister CSU institution. And if there is anything else that you want this group to know or elevate, please write it down in chat. Oh, Mark is here. Mark, I apologize if I said your name incorrectly, but glad to have you here. Applications are now open. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing the call. Fantastic. Okay. Okay. So to hear a little bit from you all, we would invite you to go to this Jamboard, and the link coming up in chat in a second. Thank you, Kai. Go to this Jamboard and quickly add a note or a text on which department at your university you think are actively working on climate change. And I'll give you a minute to write down your thoughts. Just use page 1 for now. Thank you. On the Jamboard. Hey, so the minute is up. Thank you all for adding your ideas. I see some fantastic, contributions here and array of courses. I'm also looking this side, not at the screen because I have my laptop open here. So I see public health, geography, energy, civil engineering, lots of biology at CSU Bakersfield, at Pomona. And then I'm looking at CSU Stanislaus, and you have geography and environment, history, gender studies, sociology, geology, liberal studies. So quite a mix, quite an interdisciplinary team. Fire sciences, forestry, geography, engineering at another institution. So it's a fantastic mix. Thanks all for writing down what departments at your university you think are actively working on this. So let us share the departments at SF State that are working on climate change, as we found out when we started our proposal creation process for our certificate. So it's starting from American Indian Studies to broadcast electronic communication arts, chemistry, cinema, environmental studies, engineering, gerontology, psychology, physics and astronomy. It's such a large part of the university, and various departments that are working on curriculum related to climate change. It's a fantastic sort of like array and range. Okay, so in order for us to get a sense of where you are at in terms of your campus, in terms of creating a climate change program, we wanted to do this quick poll. So if you can take a few seconds to answer the questions, that will be fantastic. And the poll is available. You can start answering. Thanks for adding in chat what your programs are. We really appreciate learning about them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to end the poll in 10 seconds.
Yes. So those of you who haven't responded, please do.
Okay, there we go. And now I'll share the results, I think. Can you see them?
I can see them, yes.
Okay.
So the majority of the participants have said that that some folks are interested, but you haven't really talked about it. And then there have been, so that's the majority. Then the next group, the next response that we have in terms of percentage is there have been no conversations about creating a certificate in climate change, nor do you know about folks who might be interested. So that's 17%. And then 13% of the people say, which is 3 out of the 23 people that responded, that you already have a certificate in climate change, which is fantastic. And then one of you mentioned that you are actively working on creating a climate change certificate. We would love to hear more about that and how we can support you in that process if you need our help. And you've talked about creating a certificate in climate change. So 2 respondents talked about that. So thanks for giving us a sense of where you all are at before we share our resources and where we are more about our process. Okay. Closing the poll. Okay. And am I passing it on to Autumn now? Yes. Thanks, Autumn.
Thanks, Archie. So I'm Autumn Thori. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes or so giving an overview of the climate change certificate that we have here at SF State. And we offer this in the spirit of offering ways of thinking about creating your own certificates if you decide that you'd like to create a certificate at your university, or ways of connecting to other efforts that are ongoing at your university already. So we're going to start out here by talking about some guiding principles and the basics of the certificate that we have. We're going to talk a little bit about the process, how we got to this certificate, how we govern it and advise within it. We'll talk about some progress that we've had so far, our assessment, challenges, future directions, and we'll have about 5 minutes for questions. Okay, so when we began creating the certificate, we wanted to make sure that we grounded it in guiding principles that we thought were most important. And we offer 3 guiding principles here that we've centered the certificate in. And the first is social justice. So throughout, through coursework within the certificate, students are introduced to, they develop, and they master the concept of climate justice. And we've worked this throughout the climate change certificate curriculum. Because we think this is crucially important for students to be able to become climate justice leaders. A second guiding principle is interdisciplinarity. We wanted to really center and value many different ways of thinking about climate change. And we did this partly by reaching out and networking throughout our campus, and we succeeded in getting buy-in from all 6 academic colleges at SF State to being part of creating and participating in this certificate. And we have the goal of this being a certificate that's easy to access for students in all majors. And that brings me to our third guiding principle, which is accessibility. We've tried to create the certificate as having a very low barrier to entry. So we've sought to include lots of courses in the certificate where there are few or no prerequisites. We've tried to create a certificate that has lots of courses that can be double counted toward major requirements, toward university and general education requirements. And we've sought to create the certificate that can appeal to students who are both matriculated, already studying at SF State, and to non-matriculated students who are out in the community and might just want to plug into the certificate as their primary coursework at SF State. So our certificate is 13 to 19 units of coursework. And it focuses on helping students gain mastery of content related to 5 program learning objectives. And so these are related to, we want them to understand the causes of climate change, the impacts of climate change, solutions to climate change. We want them to understand these things in the context of climate justice. And then we have an applied component. So I just want to mention that climate justice, we treat as an overlay. So we have courses that count in the causes, impacts, and solutions categories. Some of them are designated as advanced climate justice courses, and then students are required to take at least one of those advanced climate justice courses, but it could be a causes course or an impacts course or a solutions course. And we have just recently added this applied component to the certificate. And this is in response to student and faculty and staff requests for ensuring that the certificate is action-oriented, that it gives students real skills in applying their knowledge, and that it's hopeful. It gives them a sense of hope to be able to take action. Okay, so we want to give you a quick overview of our website because this tells more about the certificate. And you can spend time outside of our meeting checking it out if you'd like. Archie, would you be able to take us over there? I was just going to go to the main certificate website part of it where it has the requirements.
Actually, this link doesn't take us to the certificate, but I will.
Yeah, you'd have to click on the, so this is, yeah, you're right, Archie. This link takes us to our Whole Climate HQ website. And then within that, the certificate is one component.
Oh, what I meant the QR code. The QR code is incorrect.
Oh, it's incorrect.
Apologies.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So are you able to see my screen still?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is our Climate HQ website, which we are expanding weekly right now. And if you go up to the top and you can click on Climate Change Certificate, that has all the information about our certificate. And Archie worked amazingly well all summer to make sure all this information is up here. And I think I'd like you to go to, so it tells about our advising structure, our certificate course checklist. Could you go to the certificate course checklist, Archie? Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so this lists all the courses in the different categories that students must take. And so when we're advising for the certificate, we'll bring students here. Students are required to first take a foundational course in climate change. We have, I think, 5 or 6 courses that are foundational in that they touch on the causes, impacts, and solutions of climate change. And they also introduce students to climate justice. Then we have students are also required to take a causes course, and we have a wide variety of courses that come at the idea of causes from lots of different disciplinary perspectives. We also require students to take an impacts course and a solutions course. And they are similarly pretty lengthy lists because there's just so much climate change teaching already happening at our university. And then finally, in the applied component, and this is a component we've just added in the last year or so, we have 2 courses that count toward this that were developed by faculty on our team that are really getting students engaged in on-the-ground climate justice work. All right, I think we can go back to the slideshow. Thanks so much, Archie. Okay, so in thinking about creating our certificate, we wanted to embody several different principles. First, I mean, most of us are working at CSUs. We needed the certificate to be economical. We didn't have a lot of resources that we could build on, that we could use to build the certificate. In fact, we started this creation process basically as the pandemic started. And so we needed to work in a low resource environment. So we initially built the certificate using no new courses at all, just existing courses. And that's why we later on added this applied component, which required creating 2 new courses. We did have a small internal grant that we used to support a design and faculty team, and that was really valuable. That first summer of the pandemic, Kai, Archie, and I worked to create this certificate and to bring collaborators from across campus to work on this certificate. We sought to create the certificate through really inclusive processes. So we embraced voices from across campus. We tried to involve faculty, staff, and students from all different parts of campus, all different disciplines and colleges. And we used inclusive teaching strategies that we use in our classrooms to be able to facilitate this inclusive process. So we tried to make sure that we had chances for people to weigh in in many different ways. Sometimes we would have surveys, sometimes we'd have meetings, and we tried to facilitate ideas that way. And finally, we tried to create this as a very collaborative process. So when we'd create documents like, drafts of the program learning outcomes, we would share and edit these with climate change faculty and staff from across campus. And when we created rules, policies, or other decision-making documents, we also ran those documents past folks across university, and then we would ask for approval via electronic voting, which was a way to get a lot of buy-in. So one of the first challenges that we had in creating this certificate, and a challenge that other folks may have in creating similar certificates, is that the certificate is incredibly interdisciplinary. And so it sits in between a lot of the really traditional structures of the university. We wanted it to sit in between. We wanted it to be a certificate that would be welcoming and useful to students in the humanities, the sciences, the social sciences, all different parts of campus. And so one of the ways we needed to think about governance is that we had to create the governance of the certificate so that it could operate in these between spaces. So we created bylaws to formalize the administrative processes of governing the certificate. So we created bylaws. Kai, Archie, and I drafted them, and then we sought feedback from across campus, and then we had faculty vote on whether those bylaws worked for them. We got buy-in from deans across campus. And those bylaws created a steering committee with faculty and students from across campus who are in charge of the certificate. And so our steering committee, it actually met right before this. Archie is the chair of the steering committee. And it includes lecturer faculty, tenure track faculty, and students who are all focused on making sure that this certificate meets student needs. That includes courses from across campus and that, that coordinates this large curriculum. But that steering committee doesn't exist in any one college or department. It is outside of them. It's in between, and we really value that in betweenness. So this committee is elected. It works on bringing new courses in. It coordinates any new curriculum. It oversees advising, and it's in charge of assessment. Similarly, we've sought to recruit and train advisors from across campus. So we want to make sure that this certificate is decentralized so that it can be appealing and useful to students from across campus. So we have advisors in all the different colleges, and we suggest to students that they seek out advising from folks who are in their college who might be able to best help them to make their major coursework work for the certificate. And our Climate HQ website includes a lot of information that's for students to understand how to best get the certificate from their major. So in terms of progress, our certificate launched in fall 2021, and we have had about 70 students who have earned the certificate so far. So we feel like we're in the beginning stages here. We'd like to ramp this up and include even more students. And right now we're launching different efforts to reach out to more parts of campus where the students don't yet know about the certificate. So we also wanted to share some challenges and some workarounds that we've used to deal with those challenges. As I mentioned before, one of the challenges, one of our intentions was to create the governance of the certificate in this sort of in-between space. But that's challenging in a university structure where things are supposed to happen in departments, right? And where course scheduling and lots of different parts of curriculum traditionally happen within departments. And so to be able to get the certificate going, we needed to leverage some of our positions as Kai was chair of biology until quite recently. I was program coordinator for environmental studies. We needed to leverage some of these leadership positions to be able to get the curriculum approved. And then these bylaws also helped to make our processes clear so that we could exist in these in-between spaces. We also have found it challenging to communicate across campus and make sure that all of the different stakeholders are invited into the conversation. And we've sought to deal with that challenge by creating a climate change mailing list on campus. So now anybody who wants to join this mailing list, any faculty or staff can join it, and they can be cued into the different climate change events that are happening on campus, that they can learn about new curriculum, that kind of thing. We use the campus memo to tell faculty and students and staff more about different events that we hold or the launch of our new curriculum. That's the campus memo is our weekly campus communication. And our website has been integral in helping us to reach out to more groups. Another challenge that we've encountered is in some ways technical, but it has big implications. At least at SF State, certificates operate different from minors and majors in that students don't declare certificates. So you can't ever find out that a student wants to do the certificate fully until they've finished all the coursework for their certificate and actually applied to get the certificate. And that's really challenging because we'd like to be able to reach out to students who are in the certificate and be able to let them know about, like, hey, there's this new course, or here's a change. It's a community that we want to be able to contact, but we can't contact them through traditional means because they're not declaring the certificate. So one of the ways that we've dealt with this is that we've created a survey to capture students who are interested in the certificate. So on our website, when students go to find out about the certificate, it says, please complete this survey to let us know you're interested in the certificate. And that's how we can kind of gather information about students and reach out to them and find out who they are. I see in the chat, why can't students declare the certificate? I don't know. It's like a university rule that certificates aren't declared yet. It may change into the future. We're crossing our fingers because it would make a lot of things much easier. All right, some future directions for us. We are working on assessment because we want to make sure that we understand the impact of the certificate so that we can improve our efforts. And we have just started this fall by creating an assessment survey that's going out to students in certificate courses to learn more about what they're learning from the certificate. We'd like to be creating more mechanisms for students to gather and form cohorts. So we recently got a student lounge as part of Climate HQ, and we want to get more and more certificate students into that space so that they can meet each other and have a sense of community. We'd like to expand courses that count for the certificate. So right now, our certificate, we'd like it to be fully interdisciplinary, but there are some parts of campus that don't have as many courses in the certificate. For example, liberal and creative arts don't have as many courses. Health and social sciences don't have as many courses. And so we want to do more active recruitment among the faculty teaching courses in those colleges to invite them to add their courses to the certificate. And finally, we want to be doing more advertising to the community so that we can engage more non-matriculated students to earn the certificate. Students who are not traditionally part of SF State, but might join us for the certificate. All right, so I apologize. I have not been able to keep up with the chat while I was talking. Archie or Kai, do you want to pull out any chats questions that you saw, or does anybody want to just raise your hand and I can answer them, or Kai or Archie?
Yeah, I think we're answering most of the chat questions, so I would say raise your hand if you have something you'd like answered out loud.
Awesome. Thank you. Go, Paul.
Go, Paul.
Sorry, I just wanted to add one thing very, very quickly. And maybe I'll just, on behalf of Charlie and Stephanie, just say that we have another certificate, which is a graduate certificate in climate justice for K-12 education that was just approved, so that teachers and students in getting their education credentials can actually get a climate justice focused certificate for their teaching. So I just wanted to uplift that as another certificate process that's in motion. And virtual clapping for Charlie and Stephanie on the call who.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for calling that out, Gopal. And we're so excited for the work that Charlie and Stephanie have been doing and others on our committee to advance that certificate. AP Stubblefield, what is your question? You are muted.
How do you, what do people do with the certificates? Do you have an idea of how it might be useful for them in finding jobs, or sort of where they go with it?
Archie, did you want to, I saw you.
Yes. That's a great question, of course. And we are juggling so many parts that initially we didn't know how best to collect this data. So we've been hearing anecdotally from students that just in the steering committee today, one of our student members told us that she recently got a full-time position because she was able to market the certificate, and the potential employers really liked the certificate and asked her about the certificate. So we've been hearing this, right, anecdotally, but we also want to collect this data. So when the students apply for graduation from the certificate, they fill out a form, which is called a certificate. It's a CAP form, certificate completion form. I don't recall what it stands for. And it asks for their email address. Now it asks for their SFSU email address when they graduate and fill out that form. What we have asked graduate studies to do, and graduate studies is the division that creates this form, is to add a field asking for their non-SFSU email. And once we get those emails, and we are just starting that, we'll have, emails of students who have graduated from the certificate, and we are hoping to, survey those students on how they have used, where they are at, what kind of jobs they have, and has the certificate been useful in their job market process? Yeah. So hope
I
that
would
answers
also
the
add
question.
that our new assessment questions have a question about when the students at the beginning of their certificate ask a question: to what extent are you familiar with jobs in the climate change space? And we ask that again after they've earned their certificate. And hopefully we're going to see a big change there, and that we'll be able to connect that when we do the 1 and 2 year post surveys that they've actually gotten jobs, but that's all in progress.
Sam.
I just follow up with AP's question. Have you people made an estimate what will be the salary range after they receive their certificate? I give example, for instance, like computer science, hot area in San Diego, and the salary range would be between 70 to 200 per year. On average, around like 90. So what would be the salary range of the students with this certificate?
Thank you, Sam. That's a fantastic suggestion. I think, are you asking us, or are you providing this as a suggestion?
I'm asking you because the reason I'm asking is that when we design a program, we have to design it from students' benefits, not from the traditional university education point of view. In that sense, professors teach whatever they want to teach. There's a student's problem to find a job. But in the future, it is our responsibility to teach something useful for students to find good jobs. So we have to be aware of the future job market. So I think that I believe you guys have thought about it. So I want to know.
We don't have that data, but I think it's a great idea to collect that. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah.
Are there any last questions before I turn it over to the next part?
I have a quick question. This is Ryan Todd from Sac State. I'm the Director of Energy and Sustainability over there. I was curious, why did you guys choose a certificate over a minor? And the reason I ask is because we're actively creating a sustainability minor, structured similarly, where it pulls in classes from a bunch of different disciplines, colleges, departments, but it's going to be hosted by the Environmental Studies Department. And so I was just trying to figure out what the pros and cons of doing it that way versus putting it up as a certificate would look like.
Hi, did you want to take that one? Because I saw you answering part of it.
Yeah, sure. So, Ryan, we thought about that a lot on the front end. And I think there was the main driving force was that to earn a minor, you had to be a matriculated student. And we really wanted to have the possibility of people in the community earning this degree. And so the certificate allows both matriculated and non-matriculated students to earn it. And the other thing was we wanted to make it accessible to students without having to take a lot of extra units. So students can actually complete this by doing some of their university requirements and GE requirements. We're not adding a whole bunch of courses on. A minor, the requirements are slightly higher in terms of units, and that was the second reason for going with the certificate.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to quickly add that having a certificate does not preclude majors and minors. It just that's something to think about. It's just, yeah, it's sort of like the idea that we can offer all students a baseline set of understandings and values around climate justice and climate leadership.
Yeah, agreed. And I think we would like to move, with the new School of the Environment towards a major that's interdisciplinary, that is a climate change major or climate justice major.
All right, I think in the interest of time, you all can continue asking questions in the chat, but I think I'm going to turn it back over to Artri, and we'll continue answering questions in the chat.
Sure. Thanks, Adam. Okay. So I'll go back to the slides. Okay, so part of our goals for this, is this the right slide?
No.
So sorry.
There you go.
So part of the reason why we wanted to, host this meeting is to talk about our certificate, but also, create space for you all to think about certificates or similar programs in your campuses. And that's what we are going to do in this part of the webinar of this meeting. So I'm going to invite you to go to the same Jamboard that you all worked on, the first slide. In this section, we are going to work on the second slide of the Jamboard. So you see little arrows on top of the Jamboard. You can click on those arrows and go to the second slide. And in that section, these are your prompts. So choose whichever one is most applicable to you. If you don't have an existing program on your campus and you dream about a new program, what values or guiding principles would you like to guide your efforts? And if there is already a climate change certificate or a similar program on your campus, what values or guiding principles would you personally bring to the effort or would like to add to the effort? So we invite you to answer these questions, take these prompts, and take 2 minutes to work on the Jamboard. And thanks, Kai, for adding the Jamboard link. Okay, so my timer just went off. I'll let you keep adding, but in the interest of time, I also want to, start discussing this. So let's see. We see a mix, quite a mix here. Sorry. So circular economy, scientific literacy, I see climate justice, social justice, which is fantastic. Inclusivity, career readiness, activism. I see more justice here. And cultivating a generation who don't only know about climate issues, but can carefully and analytically access and argue, assess and argue for solutions to the existing set of problems. Yeah. Then you all talk about access to education, to both students and the public, and I saw that come up in the chat as well. And we've tried answering that question, and in the next few minutes, we can maybe talk about more and some of our challenges in doing that, and tailored courses across discipline that inspire the desire to keep learning and impacting. So yeah, I see some really good thoughts and values here, and I would invite you to, sort of like keep thinking about your program and what other values resonate with you that others have contributed here. And what can you incorporate in your program? For example, I really like the career readiness aspect, elevating that further. And that is something that Sam, you talked about, in chat before as well. And that is something that we, hone in on a little bit and try to, it's kind of implicit a little bit in our programming and in our language, but we'll try to elevate it a little bit more so that it's more obvious and clear. Okay. So moving on to the next part, I think I'm handing it over to you, Kai.
That's correct. So we know from talking to a number of folks that one of the reasons people come to these meetings is they want to connect with other people. And so for that reason, we're going to send folks into breakout rooms. And we're going to ask that you work on 2 questions, and they'll vary a little bit depending on whether you already have a certificate or if you're looking to create a certificate. And so most people, I think, already are looking to create a certificate. And so the 2 questions we want you to think about before we give you any instructions about going into breakout rooms are this. What challenges do you anticipate facing as you work to create a new climate change program on your campus? Could be a certificate, could be a minor, major. And then what strengths does your campus have that you can leverage for the creation of a new climate change program? And so if you are looking to create a new program, think about that, jot down some answers. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. If you've already got a program on your campus, then we'll ask you these questions. What challenges have you experienced related to the program on your campus? And what strengths does your department have that could help you connect to the certificate a little bit better? So those are your prompts. Now I'm going to start my stopwatch here. Okay, give me 10 more seconds. So we're looking for challenges of doing this and strengths. We always like to end on a positive point. Okay, so, all right, Trey, can I get the next slide, please? Very good. Oh, we lost it. Can you go to the next slide? There we go. All right, so we're going to send you to some breakout rooms, and we'd like you to, I didn't write this down, but when you get there, introduce yourself, your name and your institution. And then your next job is going to be to appoint an equity monitor, so somebody who makes sure that everybody gets the chance to talk, a recorder, and a reporter. I have suggested some ways to do that. And I'll pop those into the chat so that you'll have those. But let's see if I can, somebody will pop those in the chat, or I can do it. And because everybody else forgets that, remembering again that your prompts are to think about strengths and challenges. So you're gonna, share your name, campus affiliation, appoint your equity monitor, recorder, and reporter. And then everybody's going to grow in the circle and share a little bit about what you jotted down in terms of the challenges of pulling this off on your campus and the opportunities, the things that might be unique to your campus or more general that will allow you to create such a new thing. So I'm going to create some breakout rooms now. If you're from Climate HQ, note that I might push you into a different room just depending on where we've got people. So if you end up landing in a different place than you were first at, then just hang with me. Okay, so we're going to go now. And we'll be there for about, forget what the agenda said, 15 minutes, I think. Okay. Okay.
Alexis, is there anything we can do to help you get in a breakout room?
Think.
There you go.
There we go.
Hey, Adrian.
Alexis is here now, so I can move them to. Oops, lost them. I think they just signed off. We should stop recording.
Okay, I changed the Jamboard and the slides for the next one, so that we leave people with something concrete. Oh, I'm glad we can coordinate. Oh, we are recording. That's fine.
Here they come. All right. Welcome back, folks. I hope that you had some robust conversations in your groups. At this point, we'd like to invite, if you got to appointing a group reporter, that's great. If not, would invite anybody to share a little bit about what you've heard about what are some of the major challenges on your campus that would make it hard to create a certificate or a minor or whatever kind of program you're thinking about. What are your concerns?
I can go first. So in our group, we discussed that a couple of us had developed minors or certificate or options for their program that was related to climate change or remotely related to climate change. And some of the challenges are basically when we want to have an interdisciplinary minor, with multiple discipline, it's hard to come up with a solid list of courses that don't have very many prerequisites. And the prerequisites are always an issue. And so, and also defining the objective of the minor or the certificate that is that everyone would agree on. An example that I was discussing in my in our breakout room is sustainability minor, for example, versus climate change minor or certificate. A certificate or minor in sustainability or renewable energy might seem more interesting to many people when they want to think about job market for a student, and it's a hot topic for many disciplines. So then people may say, you know, what added advantage a climate change minor or certificate could have as far as applicability, because climate change could be highly specialized discipline, and courses that you put on this minor or certificate may require extensive number of prerequisite courses, unless you do a very like a general kind of a climate change discussion framework, which in that sense it may not be very you know, it may not be a big advantage for a student to get a job or a good job. So then convincing people that yes, this is a good area to spend the effort and resources on, as opposed to some other minors, might be a challenge.
Okay. So I hear that there's difficult to get everybody on the same page, and then this tension between sustainability and climate change. And I will say at San Francisco State, we face some of that tension. We decided on climate change. Other campuses may decide differently, but it turns out when we got our when we went looking for courses that had low or no prerequisites, that were GE courses, we already had a sustainability overlay, and the vast majority of those qualified for our climate change certificate. And so there's could be a lot of crosstalk between the two. Anybody else have? I'm sure we're at CSUs. I'm sure you got lots of challenges. So
I can report out for. Oh, sorry, Betsy, you go.
I don't care what order we go in. But
go ahead, Betsy.
Our group talked a little bit about
I will follow the process
climate and sustainability literacy assessments that campuses have done, and sort of find, you know, one of the challenges is sort of knowing what the background and, you know, where's the baseline now, and then using that, what do we understand about our students, what they've taken and stuff. And so one of the challenges is, you know, knowing what students already know, knowing what they want to know, where they want to go with it and stuff. And so, you know, how much are we building this based on what we think they need or want, as opposed to, you know, our true understanding of students. So I'm interested in knowing how many campuses are using literacy assessments and which ones they're using and how that's helping. And we also did talk in our group a lot about, you know, faculty being overburdened, you know, lots of things going on, whether it's, you know, conversion to, you know, semester systems, or it's just life in general. And so having this be a priority amongst all the other things to work in these interdisciplinary spaces that are difficult. And also the relationship of this to the majors and minors and concentrations in ways that when we're in budget crisis, when we're so focused on budgets tied to FTE generation, how people feel comfortable maybe giving up space for interdisciplinary activities, you know, how we can see this as building programs as opposed to stealing people away from programs.
Yeah, thank you. Those are all great points. And so one is, you know, how do we know where our students are and what they need? And two is just faculty workload, staff workload. How do we add this in? And then the third one is had to do with, you know, keeping courses filled and not creating demand between courses that shouldn't exist, or hopefully. Did I capture that right? Yeah. Those are all very real concerns.
If you're trying to have tenure lines, having majors may be more valuable and minors may be more valuable institutionally than having people in a certificate, right? And so how the reward system at an institution values participation in certificates.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if that's at CSU wide or if that's university wide. Like at San Francisco State, if a department teaches the course, the department gets the credit for it, regardless of what. If a faculty member from a department teaches the course, that faculty member gets the credit regardless of what department they're actually teaching in.
Yeah, so I think I think most campuses, the FTE generation is there, but some of them also do an overlay on the total number of majors, total number of minors. And if certificates aren't counted in the same way when you're trying to claim tenure track positions or those things, that
Interesting.
sometimes
Okay.
that's an issue at different campuses.
Yeah, yeah. And our hope, of course, is by having a certificate that will attract, it's not a net zero game, that we're attracting new students into the system. Any other challenges? Yeah,
I'll
go, Paul.
for our group, and I'll just add things that haven't been said yet. Some of the challenges are just the stresses on the institution, like there's already existing program priorities, new programs being planned, things like that, preparation and revision. Obviously, Betsy, I appreciate you having your CFA background up, but like the assault on faculty and our ability to actually add classes. Then this idea, the limited resources, mainly funding, and how you actually finance these things, and the low enrollment questions were some of the big challenges that came up. And then another one that came up, which doesn't impact us at SFSU as much, but the cost basis for students with adding certificates and other things that they may have to, that it sounds like in some places it's an additional cost to students. That's not the case for us, I do not believe, unless you're non-matriculating, of course. And then the one last challenge I'll just raise up, which is a strength and a challenge, which is really insisting that any major, minor, or certificate that's going to work on climate has to be interdisciplinary. If it's not actually a climate, and it's not addressing climate change in a real meaningful way. So really wanting to figure out how to do that in the context of these kinds of majors and minors.
Right.
And
thank you, Gopal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you can see, I think there's lots of challenges in the system, and lots of work to be done to move around those. I don't want to end on the challenges point though. What were some opportunities or strengths that people saw that would help them in creating some sort of institutional certificate or program? I'll just start off for us. We had two things that really helped us get off the ground. One is we very quickly realized we had over 100 faculty interested in climate change, that we already had deep interest. And the second one, Gopal says relationships. The second one for us was that there was a teeny tiny student success in the majors grant that we were able to apply for to help get some of this off of the ground. So we had two, and our amazing diverse students, but I think most of the CSUs can say that, if not all. But anybody else have other kind of contextual strengths that you can add about your institution?
I think there are a lot more courses in the curriculum than people realize. When you do a curricular audit, I mean, there's a lot that already exists there. And even if we're not all using the same terminology and language or definitions and things, that there's enough that coheres that it does that. And I also think that, especially post COVID shutdown, even though we're still in some of the COVID era, that faculty are thirsty for community with each other. And so activities that get us engaged with each other and talking about our teaching and research is really bringing belonging and joy that we need in the midst of a threatened strike, in the midst of all of these other terrible things going on in the world, that there's something that's, growth oriented and rejuvenating about being in community, talking about these things that really truly matter at a substantive level and get to social justice issues and environmental justice issues and those things. And so it's generative in a really positive way, even if it is extra work.
Yeah, and that's been so central to our work at San Francisco State. I think this group of people helped us survive the pandemic intact. And, you know, there's all sorts of new data out there that's saying by working collectively on climate change, you actually help mitigate your own climate anxiety and grief. And so it's really important to have that sense of community and purpose. Any other strengths that folks want to elevate? Okay, bye, Wing. Thanks for coming. I know a lot of people had to jump into classes as we went into breakout rooms, so it's not because they weren't interested. They have to actually go teach. Okay. All right. Well then, in the interest of time, I think we should go on to the next part then. Which is oratory.
Okay. Thanks everybody for talking about the challenges, unique challenges that your campuses have and the strength from which you can build on. So we wanted to talk a little bit about resources before we end this meeting. But in order for us to talk more about resources, there is an intermediate step. This is again a Jamboard step. So you go to the same Jamboard, and Autumn and Kai, if you can put the link in chat, that will be fantastic. So we ask you 2 questions and choose the prompt that is most relevant to you. What are the first concrete steps that you can commit to taking to create a certificate on your campus after this meeting? So, you know, what can you get done in this semester, like concretely, is something that we are wanting to, are inviting you all to think about. And if there is already a climate change certificate or program on your campus, what are the first concrete steps you can commit to taking to connect with it? So choose whichever prompt is most relevant to you and jot it down on the Jamboard. I'll give you all 3 minutes, and that will give us a sense of where you are all at so that we can talk about resources and ways to connect and resources that we can provide. So here is your time to work on the Jamboard begins now. We have about 20 seconds more. Okay, I'll let you keep adding to it, but in the interest of time, I also want to, get at the discussion part. So I read some really interesting concrete ideas here, and thank you all for thinking through all of this and thinking what your concrete next steps could be. So one of the things that I read here is super important, and that was certainly our first step as we embarked on our process, which is get together with a group of core stakeholders who can contribute in some way for a long period of time. Right. And in our case, this core group has been really important, and the consistency in which we have met throughout the past few years and exchange ideas and been in community has been really key. But one thing that Kai mentioned in passing, but I would like to elevate, is that for any group to keep meeting for a longer period of time, we are all super busy, right? So some sort of, incentive to do this other than the greater good is really good. So one of the ways in which we've done this is finding small grant opportunities that might be existing in campus, maybe for some other thing. For example, at SF State, we have faculty learning communities through the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, and that pays a small stipend for faculty to organize, to do something together. Now, that's not for climate change, but if faculty wanted to organize around creating curriculum for climate change, maybe that little grant is good to get in order to pay for people's time, pay them a small stipend so that they can get together. So just creatively thinking about opportunities that are already existing on your campus to, pay for people's time, pay them a little bit of stipend, pay for cookies or something else can be really helpful in getting this group together. I read some other ideas about sharing, so we'll talk about that in a couple minutes, but connect with other campuses. So we have this sign up sheet and we'll send out more information there, but you'll also see other people who are on that list and people that you've connected with here that you can, sort of like get their information from that list. I don't know if one of the SF State people wrote this, but share SF State example bylaws and processes so that people don't have to reinvent the solar panel. And we are certainly willing to do that. There is a lot of information on our website as well, which you are welcome to use. And this came up sometime back in the chat that if there are other programs across CSU campuses, if we can, curate and create a list of those programs so that people can learn from each other's programs. So that is also something that we will offer to do. And I see some great ideas here in connecting with climate change program in your own campuses. So I see becoming a faculty advisor, creating new courses, recruiting from parts of the university that doesn't have enough courses in the certificate, and discuss the prospect of developing a climate change certificate with sustainability working group, which is fantastic. I should also note that one of our key partners, core partners in our processes is Caitlin Steele, who is the Chief of Campus Sustainability at SF State. So we work very closely together, and Caitlin has been a big part of all of this. So yeah, that's a fantastic collaboration for any campus. Okay, so let's move this discussion further on how we can support you all. And for this, I think I'm passing it on to Autumn.
Yep. Thanks, Archie. So given that you all have come up with some concrete next steps and whatever your plans are, we just want to open up a discussion. How can we at SF State support you all? And how can we as a CSU community support each other in these efforts? And what do you need most to get started? You can either put your needs or your support ideas in the chat or raise your hands. Both are great. We're going to spend just about 3 minutes here. What do you need most? How can we help each other, and how can we help you? Yeah, Betsy.
For most, new certificates or majors, minors, whatever, there's usually a request for a rationale and some of those kind of things. I'm wondering if we might be able to share people's proposals for their degree programs, for the minors and the certificates that people have, so that we can be pilfering it from each other instead of just jumping into ChatGPT, asking it to give us some guides on how to write a proposal for a minor. Which it often does a nice job. But if there's something that's connects into some of the language of the CSU specifically, I think that might be really helpful for us all.
Yeah, and we can share our proposal for our certificate, but I really like that idea, Betsy. And somebody else had asked earlier, AP had asked for a list of minors, certificates, and majors around the CSU as examples. So if we could collect more, maybe that would have some data in it that would be very useful about how to pitch this as a career kind of stepping stone and that kind of thing. So I like that idea. Other ways that we can support each other, support you all, things that you need. All right, then I'm just going to go right to the next slide. And this is a slide on some things that we thought could be helpful that we can offer you all. Some resources that we can offer you all. Okay, so we are happy for you all to reach out to us. We've got Kai's email address on here, or you can just go to climatehq@sfsu.edu. And these are some resources that we are prepared to share with you all. We have our proposal for our certificate. So like you're asking, Betsy, we're happy to share that. We have flyers that we've created to advertise the certificate. We have our bylaws that you could use to help to create this kind of in-between space governance and interdisciplinary curricula. We have a survey on that we use to figure out which courses should be in the certificate. We have advisor info sheets. We have our student assignment assessment survey. We are happy to share these things with you all. Just reach out. And Archie, Kai, and I are also working on a manuscript about the process of creating the certificate, and we're happy to share more through that as well.
And I would say that we welcome you to plagiarize, pilfer, heavily use. Just as you go public with things, just, if you could cite us a little bit, that'd be great, but just take whatever you need. We need all of California doing this, and, we want it to work.
All right, I think I'm passing it to you next, Kai.
Okay. So speaking of wanting all of California to do this, the topic has been raised about whether we would want to explore a CSU-wide certificate. And whether we should even think about that, or at least how we can support each other in our independent certificates. And so the pros of doing such a thing, and I'm not even sure such a thing exists yet, so the mechanics of it would be a different matter, but if it's a good idea, then we can figure out how to do it. The pros of having a certificate that really encompassed all 23 campuses that we all contributed courses to, and they earned some sort of certificate that way, be that not all campuses are in a position to create new certificates quickly, and we all know that the time is now. I talked to some students who had graduated from CSU San Marcos, and they're like, oh my God, we had to go take a course from like the Northeastern because we couldn't get one in the CSU system. And that just kind of made my heart cry. We all know that different campuses have different strengths. So, SF State might have amazing courses in race and resistance studies, but need help in a different environmental engineering or something. And we might be able to attract a broader audience. So those are all pros to kind of thinking CSU wide. We know that this is a big, big problem, and we want to have big solutions to go with big problems. The cons, or at least a con, would be that if campuses are trying to develop their own certificates, we don't want to detract from enrollment on those campuses. And so how do we support, if we were to do this, how would we support individual campus enrollment as well as CSU-wide enrollment? And so just given that, I want to run a little temperature poll real quick just to see what your level of enthusiasm might be, and then we'll unpack it a little bit. So let me just see if I can find polls and quizzes here. Okay, here goes your poll to just see what people are thinking about a CSU-wide certificate. Okay, I'll give it 10 more seconds because we've got most people weighing in. Okay, I'm going to end the poll here. Share the results. And so it looks like, not surprisingly, because we come from diverse contexts, that we have a wide range of ideas from moderately low to extremely high, about evenly distributed across those answers. So that's good to know. And obviously there's only 8 people weighing in right now, so we'll try to do this again later when we got a bigger audience. But let's see. Can we go to the next slide, please? Just wanted to check in for a minute to see what people's thoughts are about why they're either very enthusiastic or less enthusiastic, and what issues you see with doing something like this. Or if you see alternatives that could, help us do this more effectively as a CSU. Hadley.
At Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, we don't have the Cal State system's largest support for climate change across the board. And so it really relies on select stakeholders to get things moving. But at the same time, if there isn't top-down support for one reason or another, it can be hard to make things happen, as we've seen consistently. And if there were something happening at the CSU-wide level, it would just help ensure that progress would be made. And that's something we found with climate change ideas in curriculum across the board.
Great, thank you. Betsy.
I love the idea of there being something that's sort of, standardized and open to the people of the different campuses. But as I'm imagining some of my faculty colleagues, based on my years of governance experience, I think that there's sometimes some discomfort with having people even on my own campus evaluate their courses for appropriateness for categories. And I'm thinking that the challenges of defining which courses count in different areas might feel daunting to some of my colleagues, even though I don't think it would end up truly being daunting. And I do think the question about course match is a question that probably right now our course match is you have to be enrolled in a certain number of units to get one free course at another campus available at a time. And I think that some of the logistics of it would need some working out to see how it could happen. But I do think that, whatever we can do to make it more possible for students in more locations to have access to the courses and to see the value of these topics, I think is important. And so there may be ways that we could use course match even without having a shared certificate, right? But we could be highlighting to each other the courses that are available at other campuses, even if we're not creating a new structure of a shared certificate.
Yeah. Or I'll add on to that a little bit. It could be that some campuses aren't working on certificates, therefore the campuses with certificates simply offer up their course, advertise their courses there and just say, hey, we've got this if your students are interested. But we'd like all students to have access to it. Gopal, did I see a thought bubble?
Yeah, you also saw the hesitation of not wanting to speak too much. Yeah, I had as the I was in the very excited category, and I'll just say that the only reason I wasn't in the extremely is because I'm kind of wondering if it makes more sense to try and like have like a sort of translocal approach where we have a unifying vision, some shared strategies, common frames, some connective tissue like this group, but we actually have it be decentralized and autonomous by campus to campus so that it can actually respond to the particular needs and the particular interests. Like, so for example, a Humboldt or a SLO can have a more, polytechnic approach, but still commit to the climate justice PLO and still commit to an applied PLO and all of the, like if we were to quote unquote win our PLOs as the shared ones or something. So there's something I think about that sounds appealing to me, and also because course match requires everything be online, and I think that's the other thing that if we did a CSU-Wide, we're probably driving towards an online process. So that was my other hesitation. And then the last thing I'll just say as a point of consideration is it might be worth looking at the Center for Climate Justice out of UC Merced that Tracy Osborne runs or is co-director of. That's UC system-wide that has created some shared courses that are online and some Mookie stuff. Is that the word?
Yeah.
For that could be useful for us or a model for us. I helped create one of those classes just as a favor to a friend at UC Davis, and I think there might be something interesting about learning from their experience for something that we could do together system-wide.
Yeah. Any other thoughts about how we can get the word out to all of California? I will say as an aside that we're also working to make sure that every student at San Francisco State has at least one course in climate justice. And if we could do that across the CSU in just 5 years, I think I calculated it was more than one every 100 California residents would have had a college course in climate justice. It wouldn't take long to get there because the CSU is so big. Might have been 10 years, but it was a very short period of time. And you think about changing your, the people who are voting and the policies that are getting made. It was pretty astonishing. Any other thoughts about CSU-Wide? I know people are kind of getting tired here. We're at the end of a long workshop, so on a Friday, now it's afternoon. So I would just encourage folks, if they have ideas about how to synergize more, collaborate more, email us, let us know, and we'll just keep these dialogues going. And with that, because I know that people are getting a little fatigued here, I think I'll go to the next slide, which is our archery.
Yes, thanks, Kai. So this has been a fantastic conversation, and hopefully you all got something out of gathering here together. We also have an appeal to make that are there other campuses who have expertise around curricula or research collaborations that would be willing to share it in a meeting/webinar format like this in the spring. If you do, please contribute this or add this on chat here. But if something comes to mind later on, if you need to check in with somebody in order to propose something, please let us know over email. And it'll be fantastic to have another campus host a similar session so that we can learn more about their work and keep meeting, keep the momentum going. So let us know. And the last piece is, please add your name to our CSU-wide list of folks interested in climate change, and add names of others who you think should be on the list, and distribute this to colleagues across the CSU. Kai or Autumn, if you can pop the link again on chat.
Already done.
Yeah, thank you. That'll be fantastic. And this is also a way to stay in touch, connect with others, and keep the momentum going. So with that, let us be the person who cares a whole awful lot about all of the beautiful places that we talked about in the beginning. Thank you all for taking time on a Friday afternoon to be with us in community here. And hopefully we can support each other through this process. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
you.
you.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah.